All right. So here's the deal. Are you ready to lead the Pledge of Allegiance? That's what you're going to do. Are you ready? All right. No need to ask.
Got it. Go. Go.
There's a handout.
Okay.
Samantha's got it.
I usually say go.
I don't even need it, actually. So just so, is he going to give me the thumbs up? All right. Stop making me nervous. No.
Pressure is your goal.
Are we ready?
I think you can ask me to start getting seated, grabbing it like last time.
Oh, I'm going to do that? Or are you going to do that? Should I ask people to start getting seated? Okay, all right. All right.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone. If I may have your attention. Hello, everyone. If I may have your attention up front, now's the time for everyone to please be seated if you're not already. I would like to welcome you to your San Mateo Public Library. My name is James Moore. I'm City Librarian of San Mateo. First of all, I would just like to mention that we have 2 bathrooms out in the hallway just before you get to the bookstore. And now I will introduce Charlotte, Samantha, and Ellie to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. I think one of them may be our future mayor one day. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, my boss, and our city manager, Drew Corbett.
Thank you, James. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see everyone here tonight. I'm going to put you to work right away. So our communications manager, Samantha Weigel. Samantha, raise your hand. She insisted that I ask you a series of questions before we get started. Really looking to get some feedback on how you heard about this event. So if you could raise your hand if you heard about this event from an email from the city. Okay, that appears to be an effective use of communications. Okay, how many of you heard about it on social media, like Facebook? Okay. How many of you saw it through Nextdoor? How many of you heard about it from word of mouth? How many of you saw the plane we had flying around downtown? Okay, all right, thank you. We're ready? Okay, so one of the things I really love about this city is how active and engaged our community is, and I think you see that is evidenced by the turnout tonight. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to come to the State of the City. I don't think anyone that I've met epitomizes San Mateo and the love for this community more so than Mayor Goethals. His family is 4 generations in San Mateo, and the mayor truly loves this community and loves serving this community. And so without further ado, it is my great pleasure to announce 2020 Mayor Joe Goethals for the State of the City.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? We are all truly blessed to live here in San Mateo. And I am truly blessed to be a public servant. I have had the pleasure of being a district attorney in Alameda County and now in San Mateo County. And so when I stand up, I announce myself and I say, Joe Goethals for the people. And the beautiful thing about democracy is that we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. You have to remember that democracy is not, as Mayor Pappen would say, not a spectator sport. It is self-government. It is us. We are doing this. And that's what makes it so important. I was inspired to serve by my parents. Growing up here in San Mateo, I was inspired by my Jesuit education, and I was inspired by truly inspirational leaders. And the last 10 years of my life have been about what can I do for San Mateo, not what San Mateo can do for me.
Hey, Joe. I don't think that folks in the back can hear you. I don't know if your mic's on.
This is a good opportunity to introduce my wife. Can you hear me, Diane? Better. So we celebrated 125 years last year. That's a long time for San Mateo to be around. Since 1894, San Mateo has seen tremendous changes. Some of them were very good. We've made huge progress in civil rights, and we have a booming economy. But we also have very serious challenges. Traffic has never been as difficult as it is right now. We are in the middle of a housing crisis brought on by lots of jobs and not enough housing. We also are facing very threatening climate change that has the ability to change the way we live. Northern California was once gold country, and today we're experiencing a different kind of gold rush. Today it's Silicon Valley that's swallowing us up, and people from all over the world are coming for our jobs. There's the greatest concentration of billion-dollar companies in the history of the world right here in Silicon Valley. How do we respond to that? What do? That's what being on the city council is all about. It's about planning for those challenges that we face and trying to meet those challenges. We have to constantly remind ourselves that the decisions that were made in the past have given us today, and the decisions that we make today are going to affect tomorrow and our kids and our grandkids and the next generation. So many things have changed, and yet in San Mateo, some things stay the same. Pretty nice. Even in the last 4 years, though, we've seen tremendous changes. I was the mayor 4 years ago. My kids were much younger, and now, being on the council for this long, it has meant that I've gotten to share with my daughters what it means to volunteer and to give back and to be a part of your community. But besides my family, we've seen lots of changes in the faces at City Hall, too. Drew Corbett, our new city manager, is getting his sea legs. He's leading us fearlessly. James Moore, you just heard from, our city librarian, does a great job. We love coming to say hi to James every time we're in the library. Ray Iverson is our new fire chief, the fire chief of San Mateo Consolidated, which is San Mateo, Belmont, and Foster City. Ed Barberini will take over next month as our new police chief. Rich Lee is our finance director, and Kohar Kajayan is the director of community development. This is our team that is building sustainability here in San Mateo. When I say sustainability, everything that I talk about tonight is going to have to do with sustainability, and there are the 3 E's of sustainability: economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and equity. In San Mateo, we're going to talk about how economic sustainability is both the revenue that we bring in and also the services that we provide. That's the revenue we bring in is how we provide those services. We're going to talk about how environmental sustainability is not just about the natural environment, but it's also about sustainability of our infrastructure. And we're going to talk about how equity and community here in San Mateo means making San Mateo a place where working families can thrive. Starting with the economic sustainability piece, we see that the citywide operations budget is $191.2 million. That's a lot of money, right? And we also have a capital improvement budget of $41.5 million. That's just for the 2019-2020 budget. If you look 5 years ago, in the last 5 years, we've spent over $1.2 billion in investing in our infrastructure. This is our revenue, and this is the expenditures. Here's the money coming in, and here's the money going out. These are supposed to equal each other in order to create sustainability. Our operations budget includes things like property taxes, property transfer tax, sales tax, and hotel tax. That's the majority of this $134 million that we bring in revenue to our general fund. And then our expenditures, the main pieces of our expenditures are those services that all of us rely on, critical services like police and fire, maintaining our parks, and paving our streets. Those are the things that we rely on every single day. The most important things in your life when you think of government services are things that are provided by the city. It's sewer, it's garbage, it's police, it's fire. Before I go to the next slide, I need you to recognize that the revenue is 134 and the expenditures are 137. That's not a mistake. We, at this moment, are out of whack. We have a point in time where the expenditures are more than the revenue that we bring in, which is okay. We have reserves, we have a rainy day fund, and so we can make these numbers equal each other in the short term. But when you look 10 years out, the numbers have crossed. Expenditures are higher and will remain higher for a while. And we have to plan for that as city council members. We have to build structural sustainability in our budget. The economy may go through cycles, but we always need police and we always need fire, and we're not willing to sacrifice our critical resources for anyone. We rely on that high level of service. We have to make the numerator equal the denominator. So we are tightening our belts right now. We're going through a process where each and every department is trying to trim the fat because we see what lies ahead of us. And in order for us to provide the same high level of services in police, in fire, and repaving our roads, we have to make sure that we're not seeing any waste in our budget. As we try to create structural balance, it may require enhanced revenue. You may hear about things that come on the ballot, including things like a hotel tax and other things that might come forward to you to vote on. I know many of you who are sitting out here think, why is government always raising taxes? What's going on here? Why is it always more, more, more? It's not always more, more, more. I need you to understand how our budget works. In the last 40 years, since Prop 13 was enacted, it's been doing its job by protecting people on a fixed income, which is what it's designed to do. But when you look at how much taxes San Mateo collects, we have $44 billion in property, and we collect taxes as if it's only $22 billion. That's the effect that Prop 13 has had. We're getting half the revenue that we should. We pay 1% in property taxes. San Mateo gets 13% of that 1%. Half of the revenue that we need in order to provide the high quality of services to all of you. We know that that's not sustainable. And so what we're trying to do is provide revenue enhancements that will help us to create economic sustainability. Even though we're tightening our belts, we cannot cut vital services. And the quality of services is very important. Our staff work very hard. Our police, our fire are there for us when we need them. We're not going to go into layoffs. We're going to make sure that we have a structural balance in our budget. Let's look at some of the services, those critical services that we're providing. San Mateo Consolidated is that fire department for the 3 cities. And we have a new chief this year, Ray Iverson. I am proud to be the president and chair of the board for the JPA. We are doing a fantastic job to provide the same level of service. In fact, we are streamlining services. It is more efficient than it has ever been. Better service, streamlined operations, and we are saving millions of dollars. We broke ground on the new Station 25, which is right next to Burrell Middle School. The beautiful thing about this is that there will be a brand new park right next door. We're building that as part of this project. Before I move on to any more slides, I have to mention climate change affects us every single day. What we saw in the devastating fires in Australia is something that has also been happening here in California. Northern California has experienced more and more droughts, more and more devastating fires than we've ever seen before. And when those fires happen, it doesn't just affect our air quality. We, as a fire department, we send an engine, a truck, and firefighters, an entire strike team to help them as part of our mutual aid agreements, because we know someday it's going to be us, and we're going to be relying on their help, and they're going to be coming to our aid. Another one of the reasons why meeting the challenge of climate change is so important to all of us. Last year, the police department received over 67,000 calls. That's over 200 calls per day. The police department also went through an incredible transition. Susan Mannheimer retired. We have our interim chief in Dave Norris, and next month we are swearing in the new chief, Ed Barberini. Ed comes to us from San Bruno. He was the police chief in San Bruno, battle-tested. He has faced some of the most difficult challenges in terms of shootings and other events that any chief has faced in all of San Mateo County. I'm very proud to have him back, and what's more, he was born and raised in San Mateo. One more thing before I go to the next slide. We have embarked on building a new substation on the east side. We are going to have a substation that helps to support Shoreview and North Shoreview, and as part of that project, there will be barracks. Barracks to help police officers who work long shifts and don't want to get in the car after a long day and try to drive tired to their home that could be hours away. That can be incredibly dangerous. So that is another great project that we're working on for the police department and to make sure that their services stay at that very high level. Right here in the main library, it's so great to be here. Our host, James, is always proud to show it off. Last year, the library circulated over 1 million items. That's an incredible feat. They've also expanded their tech lending. So those of you like me who have the app and we like borrowing audiobooks so that we can listen to them in the car, it's not that hard. Any of us can do it. If you have a smartphone, you can download the app and you can borrow audiobooks from the library. We renovated the children's section. We saw that completed and we cut the ribbon last year. This coming year, we're going to be enhancing all of the libraries out in the neighborhoods. So all of the branches will get new renovations. And we know that the future of libraries is important. Libraries are a sacred place in democracies. It's not just about books. It's not just about information. Information is knowledge, and knowledge is power, and so we have to keep libraries at the center of our communities. So now we're moving from the services piece into environmental sustainability. We have two kinds of sustainability when we're talking about environmental. First, there's infrastructure, and second, there's nature. Talking about the infrastructure, Public Works has this 5-year capital improvement program. I've already mentioned that we have invested over $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion in capital improvement projects for San Mateo in the last 5 years. And over the next 5 years, we're going to be investing another $280 million. Where does it all go? Where does it all go? Those projects are projects like the 92 El Camino interchange. It's grade separations at 25th, 28th, and 31st. It's the new wastewater treatment plant, just one part of the overall clean water system. It's energy efficient lights that reduce our greenhouse gases. It's parks and it's levees, especially the levee in North Shoreview that protects North Shoreview and North Central and will take that neighborhood out of the flood zone. Let's talk a little bit more about those streets and sewers. So down here we see the groundbreaking of the wastewater treatment plant. You see Mayor Pappen right here in the middle, looking excellent. But right next to her is Congresswoman Anna Eshoo and Congresswoman Jackie Spear. Why are they there? They're there because they helped us secure low-interest loans. And those low-interest loans are actually saving the city over $50 million. The ratepayers are going to get a huge savings from that. This is actually my 10-year anniversary with the city. I was appointed by Mayor John Lee to the Public Works Commission. It's fun to remember back to 10 years ago. At that time, Larry Patterson was the Public Works Director, and we knew that we had 22 miles of failed streets. Streets are graded between 0 and 100. A failed street is between 0 and 10. And I asked him what we needed to do, and he said we needed a dedicated funding source because for 1 mile of failed streets, it takes $2 million to replace that street. And we didn't have that funding source. And he and I kept working on that until I was on the council and he was the city manager. And he and I said, let's put it to the voters and see if we can get that dedicated funding source. All of you passed Measure S by huge margins. You passed Measure S, taxing yourselves to make it so that we could fund this critical infrastructure. We could fund streets and get rid of our failed streets. Right up here you see one of those failed streets that was replaced. Measure S has made this a reality. At this point, we have actually replaced 11 of those 22 miles of failed streets, and we are on pace to eliminate failed streets from San Mateo by 2023. In the right-hand corner, we see one of the safe routes to school enhancements to the street. You see that it's much easier to cross the street because of the curb outs. We also see a green street feature which takes the storm water and puts it back into the soil rather than going into storm drains, which goes out to the wastewater treatment plant and into the bay. It's bad for the bay, it's bad for the wastewater treatment plant, so putting it back into the soil is good for the environment. Here's where we spend some of that money. Grade separations at 31st. This is a big deal. Grade separations at 25th. This is a $180 million project. We also have part of the safe routes to school. This is Parrott and Alameda. This intersection was incredibly dangerous for school children trying to get to their school. And these kinds of enhancements make it much safer because we have adopted Vision Zero. Vision Zero says we need to have streets that are safe for all pedestrians and all bicycles. It is not acceptable to have any injuries based on infrastructure, so we can do something about that. We, as policymakers, can invest in our infrastructure in a way that makes the streets safer for everybody. Lastly, a few years ago, we started with the traffic forums. We went out to every single one of your communities and every neighborhood, and we listened. We wanted to know, what is it that you want in your neighborhood? What can we do about traffic? And traffic is interesting because it's binary. In your neighborhood, you want the cars to slow down. On the freeway, you want the cars to speed up. So when it comes to your neighborhood, we have things like speed cushions. We have electronic speed signs. We have upgraded enforcement by more police officers in the neighborhoods, because when it comes to those delivery vans that we all have every single day, when it comes to that crazy teenager who lives around the corner, you want them to slow down. And it's enhancements like this that make people safer. Binary, right? So here's the other side of that coin. When it comes to freeways, we want to speed people up. So we have the Managed Lanes project. Managed lanes, we have carpool lanes down in Santa Clara County. We have carpool lanes further up 101. But we don't have carpool lanes from Whipple to 380. And so we, as a county, this is a regional issue. We have come together to make sure that we are encouraging people to carpool. That is part of the solution. Getting people to ride in those Google buses and those Genentech buses take hundreds and thousands of cars off the road, which makes it easier for all of us in our cars, right? Down here we see Caltrain is being electrified. Caltrain is another one of these regional bodies that we participate in, and electrification is just the first step. The new electrified cars are going to double the capacity of Caltrain, more cars off the road. And their expectation is that they're going to triple ridership. Triple ridership. They have tens of thousands of riders right now. They're going to triple ridership, more and more cars off the road, people taking a mode of transit that's good for the environment too. I myself am part of this story. We all have to change the way that we live. I used to commute over to Alameda County when I worked for the Alameda County DA's office. In 2008, that wasn't a big deal. In the depth of the recession, not that bad. It was about an hour each way. I could handle that. In 2012, 2013, not so much. 2 hours in both directions. My back hurt. My car was on the road twice as long. These are emissions that are hurting the environment. And when you're on the road for that long, it's just not safe. It's not dangerous. You get tired, it's more likely that you're going to get in a crash. So what did I do? I came over to the San Mateo County DA's office. I shortened my commute tremendously. My back doesn't hurt anymore. I get to spend more time with my family. All of us need to look at what can we do that will make life a little bit easier, a little bit better for the environment. Maybe we don't have to drive everywhere. Maybe we can take our bike. Maybe we can walk. It would be better for all of us and for our health and for the environment. Speaking of the environment, Peninsula Clean Energy, we're talking about sustainability. We're talking about nature and sustainability. PCE is the single greatest thing that we have done as a county. We came together 4 years ago, and every single city and the county had to vote on this. 109 elected officials, and PCE was adopted unanimously. PCE provides clean energy to all of you, whether you know it or not. You have the ability to actually increase your renewable energy to 100%. But PCE is taking that choice themselves. Today, a major solar project that PCE paid for came online, and so we are providing today more renewable energy than ever before. PCE is one of the things that I am most proud of in all my time on the City Council. It is truly changing the world. We are a leader in California, but we are a leader across the country. We've also adopted a new climate action plan. We've enhanced parts of our climate action plan that continue to strive for the highest goals possible to reduce our greenhouse gases. Part of that is changing behavior, but part of that is elected officials like me making the clean choice the easy choice for all of us. We've also changed our REACH codes. What are REACH codes? So when we have new buildings going in, we're requiring solar in that project. We're requiring that they facilitate electric vehicle charging stations. We're requiring that they become carbon neutral buildings, and we are enhancing the requirements about natural gas. We used to look at natural gas as a clean, safe energy source. We don't believe that anymore. It's still a fossil fuel. It is not clean enough. It is not safe enough. And so you will see a push to eliminate natural gas in our building. Climate change is real, everybody. I think I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but climate change is real, and it is the challenge of my generation. It is something that we have to tackle and take head on, or it will be beyond help when it comes to the next generation and the generation after that. One of the effects of climate change is sea level rise. What are we going to do as a city that is on the bay? The bay is going to rise 3 to 6 feet in my lifetime. What is that going to mean for our neighborhoods, for our wastewater treatment plant? We have a plan for that. This year, we created an entirely new agency, the Flood and Sea Level Rise Resiliency Agency. This is an agency that can put together that planning for San Mateo County. We're working together with the other cities on the bay and the cities on the coast because all of us are affected by sea level rise. We have to be prepared. We have to build levees that will protect us from those storms that are getting harder and harder. Community identity. I've reached the point where I get to say San Mateo is awesome. We have tremendous community here in San Mateo. We support the troops. We have adopted the 101st Airborne. We send them care packages. This relationship goes back 50 years to the middle of Vietnam. When the troops came home from Vietnam, we gave them a parade because it's not about the conflict that they're in. It's about the fact that they put their lives on the line for us. They didn't choose to be in that place, but they did choose to stand between us and danger. And so we have formed that relationship, and we support them. When they are deployed, we send them care packages. My daughters have written them letters. They donated their Halloween candy. We sent the Halloween candy to Africa and to the Middle East. I hope it was still all right when it got there. One of the most special things that we do, I even flew back to their fort in Tennessee and got to see them, got to talk to them. I got more hugs from those guys who were in that original parade when they came back from Vietnam. They took huge losses. They took huge losses. Even in the weeks before they came home, they took huge losses. And so when we welcomed them like no other city in the country gave a parade for the troops who came home from Vietnam. None. Those guys came up to me and said, "You got to tell everybody in San Mateo, thank you. I have friends who didn't make it, and you guys were there for us. And when nobody else cared about us, when they were calling us murderers, you were there and you knew how hard it was for us to come home." These guys are still in tears about how special San Mateo was to them. Another part of the great things in San Mateo is our relationship with Toyonaka, Japan. Toyonaka and our sister city relationship has gone over 50 years. It is a relationship of peace and cultural exchange. We have them to thank for our beautiful Japanese tea garden in Central Park. We exchange students, and we exchange baseball teams, and we play them every 2 years. They come to us, and we go to them. My brother played for one of the baseball teams with the Toyonaka games, and we hosted one of the players from Toyonaka. It is a truly special relationship. A little tidbit about Toyonaka, we get partnered with cities in the sister city relationship because we're about the same size, same demographic, same area. We were 60,000 people at the time. They were 60,000 people at the time. San Mateo today is 110,000 people. Toyonaka has grown as well. Toyonaka is 400,000 people. So when you think of traffic problems in San Mateo, there's a whole nother level. There's a whole nother level. The changes that we've seen, you can put in perspective once in a while. Another one of my absolute favorite things, and my family's favorite thing, is coming out to music in the park, Central Park, on a Thursday night in the summertime. It's so warm and so beautiful. It is the epitome of Americana. It is the best thing that we do. It is who we are, to come together as a community and enjoy some music and spend some time together. It is a beautiful thing. Speaking of the parks, Central Park is amazing, but we've also renovated the park in Hayward Park. We have the mobile recreation center that goes around to all the neighborhoods and gives them recreation. And the soccer field where I grew up playing soccer, I scored a lot of goals on this field. The King Center has been turfed. A couple of years ago, AYSO was so disappointed they had to cancel the games at the end of the season because the field was in terrible shape because of the rain. That will never happen again. Now we have year-round fields that kids can play on. There's lights so they can practice at night. I might have scored even more goals if I had turf. The King Center, this turf field, is actually being opened Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. We will be cutting the ribbon, and I'm very excited about that. Speaking of community and coming together, September Nights on B Street was a huge success. Thank you so much to staff who planned this and executed it to a T. For those of you who didn't make it, it was an awesome time. We shut down B Street. There was music. There was entertainment. People had food. We love our downtown. San Mateo, we love our downtown. This was such a good time, and it was proof of concept that we can do this again and again. One of the nights, I think they ran out of beer. People were having a good time. So we've got to do this again. We've proven that it works. We will do it again. It will continue. One of the nights we celebrated the 125th with a skit, and we talked about all the changes since San Mateo was founded. Let's talk about those changes because we've seen them in very real form recently with projects that got finished. Remember, we were promised the North Block of Hillsdale, and it was taking a while. What is it going to look like when they're all finished? They showed us a picture of what it was supposed to look like. And they delivered. They delivered. The North Block is absolutely gorgeous. It has an outdoor community gathering space. It has retail. It has restaurants. It has a bowling alley and bocce ball. And once again, it has a theater. There used to be a theater. I grew up here. There used to be a theater down there. I think I saw Back to the Future there. I think I saw Top Gun, Major League. There was a theater down there, and it was so much fun. And now we have Sinopolis, which is an absolutely gorgeous luxury theater. It's the best thing you've ever seen. Enjoy. Three Corners. I talked about how John Lee appointed me to the Public Works Commission. John Lee, when he was mayor, he said, 3rd and El Camino is an abomination, and those property owners should be very embarrassed, and I'm calling on them to fix it. What did we see? We saw Windy Hill built the project on 3rd and El Camino, and then we saw the clock tower. This is the clock tower. This is what it was supposed to look like. And they delivered. They delivered exactly what they promised. Station Park Green. Station Park Green over in Sunnybray. This was a Kmart and a parking lot. And now it's 599 units of housing, first floor retail, amazing amenities. It's got rooftop decks. It has a rooftop pool. It also has some of my favorite things. It has art on the corner. It has public art on the corner, but in the middle of it, where I used to see kids kicking a ball in the parking lot, is now 3 acres of park space that kids can play for real, and a playground for little kids. This is enhancing the experience of San Mateo, and it's making good on that promise that we are building spaces for working families in San Mateo. Another one of the huge changes, I know this isn't new, but you have to recognize where we're headed. When Silicon Valley was swallowing up San Mateo, we had a tremendous opportunity, and the City Council seized that opportunity to build a walkable, livable, transit-oriented development that built community and that let those residents take the train. And we've been monitoring how many car trips are coming in and out, and it's working. Transit-oriented development works. People are taking the train. They choose to live there because they want to take the train. That's taking cars off the road. That's how we make our communities work. Oh, by the way, when the City Council did the planning for this, it added 15 acres of park space that we didn't have that everyone gets to enjoy. We only have the room for 2 more hours. When I'm talking about creating opportunities for working families, I'm serious. This is the affordable housing project that we broke ground on in Bay Meadows. 68 units for working families up to 60% of the area median income. Up to 60% of the area median income. This is not tech workers. These are working families from San Mateo. These are the families from San Mateo that lived here 50 years ago and that we need to make a part of San Mateo in the future. We also have a downtown project where we're building over 220 affordable units for families with incomes up to 80% of the median income. That's the missing middle. These are the families that are working hard for us and work here, and now we can make it so that they live here too. We have amazing partners, the county, Mid-Penn, Bridge Housing, lots of nonprofits. So what else are we doing? CDD approved 266 new homes last year. People are building. People are building. It's a good time to be building. We collected $800,000 for childcare, and we have been investing that money into new childcare centers that support those working families. Five public art installations, including Reflections, which is right at the gateway of San Mateo, down at 3rd, at the exit off of 101. Absolutely beautiful. Here's, again, the lovely Mayor Pappen. Just to give you an idea of how big that public art piece is, so many years went into the making of that. But one of the most, before I move on, we have 2,000 units of housing in the pipeline right now. CDD is working hard to create more opportunities for working families. And we are right now planning the future of San Mateo through the general plan. The general plan that we have hosted 29 community meetings on already. This is to discuss the future of San Mateo. This is for you to get involved and leave your print on the future of San Mateo. Be a part of the general plan process, because the decisions of the past have created the present. The decisions of today will echo in the future to future generations. So what is the general plan? It's what our vision of 2040 is, what our vision of the challenges will be, and how we will meet those challenges. And the place to start is with a vision statement and with our values. What are our values? Our values are diversity, balance, inclusivity, prosperity, and resiliency. I love resiliency. It brings it back to sustainability. It's all about sustainability. We bring in money, and we try to create sustainable economic conditions so that we can keep that high level of services. We're protecting the environment, and we're investing in our infrastructure. We are making sure that San Mateo will always be inclusive and a place where working families can live. This is not a spectator sport, as Mayor Pappen used to say. This is about self-government. You have to participate in it. It's not just us. You have to be a part of this. You can get involved. Be a part of the Bayfront cleanup. Come write letters to the troops and send care packages. Participate in the Sister City Association and be a part of the relationship with Toyonaka. But more than anything, vote. Vote early, vote often, vote all the time. It matters. This is a big election year, 2020, nationally, statewide, and locally too. When you look at your local ballot, you've got to see, who are these people I'm voting for? What are the initiatives that I'm going to vote for that's going to help sustain our services locally? Because revenue enhancements are going to allow us to maintain our police and our fire and the streets and the things that we rely on most. We are San Mateo. This is our identity. We have to hold on to that. When I think of preserving San Mateo, I think of preserving its identity as a place where working families can continue to thrive. That's the state of the city. And I want to thank all of you for giving me the privilege of being your mayor, but more than anything, I want to thank my team, the team that stands by me, the team that supports me at night, the team that continues to make the sacrifices to allow me to do this, my wife and my family. Please thank them. So we still have 3 hours. No, I'm just kidding. At this point, thank you for listening. I know it was long. There was a lot of things to go through. We've seen a lot of changes. I want you to know where I'm coming from in trying to meet the challenges that we face. Does anybody have questions? And for the folks who are in the other room, if you have a question, send it over or come on over and ask your questions. Yes, please.
Thank you so much for this.
would just like to ask a question about the streets. As a bike rider, myself, who is in constant danger from potholes, how can we find out whether or not the streets that I think should be fixed are in line to get fixed? Is there like a map that I can go online and see?
There are maps online to show, first of all, what the safest streets for bicycle riders are. We have a bicycle master plan, and you can see that map on the San Mateo website. We are hoping to do all of the streets by 2023. The way that they are lined up is based on what other construction is being done. They try to tie it in when street lights are being done at the same time or when the sewer system's being done at the same time. You can call Otis Chan. The Smooth Streets webpage as well is it's on the city webpage. If you go to the city webpage, you can get to the Smooth Streets. And if that doesn't work, call me. Call me, email me. Is my email up there? Darn.
Hi. A couple years ago, the incoming mayor, new mayor of Cupertino, said at his State of the City address that their answer to the housing problem was going to be to build a wall around Cupertino and make San Jose pay for it. So I'm really happy to see that San Mateo has been taking leadership on building affordable housing. But what is the city's view on working with other cities in the area, given that it's a very regional problem, and how we can encourage those cities to carry their burden while not playing a blame game, and whether any state action has to be taken along the lines of SB 50 or something completely different?
As a local official, I like to think that we are doing something to address it. So we on city councils, we always think that our discretion should not be taken away because we're doing something about the problem. But you're absolutely right that when you look along the peninsula, there are cities that are doing more and cities that are doing less. We get together on a monthly basis at Council of Cities to talk to each other and to support each other. And some of those cities that are a little bit more reluctant to pass things, there's a time and place to put pressure on them to step up and to do what San Mateo's doing. I think that you're going to see San Mateo do even more as we go forward. You've also seen SB 50 change in the last year or 2 years. It's becoming better. I don't support it yet, but I think that we absolutely need to address the problem. I don't subscribe to building a wall. I don't think that that's going to work. We didn't create these economic conditions. We didn't ask to be part of Silicon Valley. It happened. And that's a reality. And so the thing that I look at the most is in order to preserve working families in San Mateo, we have to create those opportunities ourselves. It's not going to happen by itself. So I appreciate your support, and we will continue to do more and work with our partners regionally. Yes, sir. Oh, wait 1 second.
I just had a quick comment. When you said what we could do to help the city, I think the other thing we should add is that everybody should fill out their census.
Yes. So I was just talking about this yesterday, and we are on the verge of, for the first time in our lifetimes, seeing a decrease in the population of California. The Peninsula could lose a congressional seat. This really matters. When we fill out our census, we encourage our neighbors to fill out our census. Those are federal dollars and state dollars that could come to us that we rely upon. So make sure, fill it out for yourself, your neighbor, your friends, everybody. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as you drive 92 and 101, what you see of San Mateo is often litter along the highways. I know Caltrans is responsible for that, but what pressure can you put on them to make sure that the visual gateway of San Mateo looks better?
So that's a great question. We have Bayfront cleanup, we have a downtown cleanup, so we're taking the initiative to bring volunteers out and help pick up the trash because we care about our community and it's about quality of life to not have to look at that. I haven't yet set up a cleanup where I took people onto the freeway. I'm not planning that yet, but I think that is an issue that I need to take up with Caltrans. We've talked about fixing the wall along Caltrans. They're going to move it as they do the managed lanes project. So that could be an opportunity to make sure that we do that. I don't know what else we can do, but I do want to look into that. If you talk to me afterwards, I'll get back to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am from San Carlos, and I must say, I have watched the city meetings there. The city is lucky to have a young person with enthusiasm, and I'm happy to hear you. The young, there is a difference between San Carlos. yeah.
San Mateo has committed to the age-friendly city initiative, WHO certification. So I'm wondering if, since that wasn't mentioned, whether you could comment on the level of commitment that the city has to the aging population and what you're going to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question because when you look at demographics, we see the older population, people over 65, is going to be a larger and larger percentage of our population everywhere, but specifically here. And it's on our strategic plan. We're going to be talking about it at our retreat this Saturday. More things that we can do to support the aging population. And that's everything. That's from retirement to end of life. The other night we were just talking about services for people at the end of life and how we can care for people better. But mobility and our senior center are two things that we're trying to do to support the senior population. I think that San Mateo is a friendly place to the elder population. Older folks who have the privilege to retire here, I think, have a wonderful life to enjoy. And if you have more ideas that I should be thinking about or that we're not going to be talking about on Saturday, I'd love to hear them.
To add on to that, at one of the workshops, a gal said, we need not only child care, but we need elder care because we have working families and you need to take care of them and you can't leave them. So as you are working in some of these with the child care, maybe you could work on an elder care daycare center the same way.
I like that. We have certain segments of the population that do something like that. We have an organization called Self-Help for the Elderly that brings citizens together to have lunch and to do activities. There's certainly more opportunities for us to enhance those kinds of opportunities.
Hello, Mayor. I have a question regarding composting. I've contacted Mayor Papan before as well regarding these issues. We live in an apartment and our apartment doesn't provide composting and the city doesn't enforce it. It's been done in other cities where I've lived like Berkeley, Oakland, Hayward. I don't know why San Mateo, when it has this ideas for sustainable future, that we don't enforce it. And I want to know what the new waste management plan that the city is investing is adding to that. Like are we going to do something more in that front?
That's a great question. So a year ago, I got an email about that exact issue. And I looked into it. I reached out to Kathy Kleinbaum in our city manager's office. And I reached out to Roxanne Murray, who's in our public works department. And it is an issue that people like you are not being given opportunities to compost because we all should be composting. Composting not composting. When you put food scraps into your waste, it releases greenhouse gases. It releases a significant amount of greenhouse gases. So when you compost, you are reducing greenhouse gases. Not enough people know that and know that they can change their behavior in a way that will help. All I can say is that we're working on apartments like yours to make sure that you have a composting option. And I'm going to ask Kathy to talk to you about it afterwards, what we can do to help create opportunities for you. Thank you very much for that question. Please. Yeah, what's up?
When is it that San Mateo is going to replace its fleet with electric vehicles? I see a lot of gas guzzling city school buses going around, and even the cops use the gas vehicles. Are you ever going to change that fleet, and is that in any plan?
I was having that conversation just the other day with my city manager. It is something that we're talking about constantly. I was dealing with our sustainability and infrastructure commissioners, and we were trying to come up with a goal for when we would have a completely renewable fleet, a fleet that did not have any fossil fuels. When it comes to some of the more difficult vehicles, police vehicles and heavy trucks, I think 10 years is a realistic goal. I think we can push to do it sooner than that. A lot of our city vehicles that we use on a daily basis are Priuses and things that we have used for a long time. The older vehicles, swapping all of those out is a challenge. It requires resources, but it's certainly something that we're talking about, and it is a goal of ours. I'd love to announce sometime this year that our goal is 8 years or 7 years to get to 100%. Thank you for that question. Oh, we have another question.
Okay. You hear about other cities talking about unfunded pensions. I haven't heard that here, so I don't think it's an issue. But do we know, like, what % of the budget goes to pensions, and is there an issue, or will there be a future issue with unfunded pensions?
That's a good question. Let me answer it as thoroughly as I can, and if everybody leaves the room, I'll know that it was a terrible answer. Everyone has an issue with unfunded pension liability. So every city, every municipality in the state of California, many of us, most of us, are part of the pension system for the state of California. And that pension system has been investing all the money that they collect that they intend to give out to retirees someday. When they had invested it in 2000, 2002, the market was doing great, and they had expectations that it was going to stay great forever. And that didn't happen. And what happened was we ended up with this huge gap where we should have been contributing more money. Long before I was on the council. Way, way before. That gap where we should have been contributing more money, but we had this expectation the market was going to keep going up forever, created this unfunded liability. We are paying a portion of our annual budget. It's around less than 10%. So it's 15% of the general fund. The general fund is a smaller portion of our overall budget, but it's 15% of our general fund. That's a lot of money. We know that that's too much money. We take that into consideration every time that we're negotiating with one of our labor groups. We know that it's irresponsible for any of us to pay too much, but it's incredibly expensive to live here. So there's this push-pull relationship between wanting to take care of our employees who work so hard for us and not having the money to give them. So it's a challenge. It's not going to go away right away. Our plan, we are setting aside $2 million extra dollars every single year to pay it down. It's currently about $242 million, which is a lot of money. But as a mortgage for the city, we can pay that off over 20 to 25 years. And if we continue to make extra payments, we will get it down to zero. We're okay. There's a lot of cities that aren't. There are a lot of cities who don't see their revenue going up, and they will be in trouble for bankruptcy. You're going to see the canary in the mine cities going bankrupt in the next 10 years. Good question. You didn't end us on a really high note. But I think that the high note is that we're being responsible, and San Mateo is still awesome. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, thanks for helping. It was too long. Thanks, Brian.
I want to learn more about you every single day, how enthusiastic you do a terrific job.
Thank you. Thank you.